Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Wild Earth this afternoon. Sorry for the slight delay. There was an issue with the European server, so that's what we were waiting for to come back online. But we're here now, and hopefully we'll be seeing some wonderful things from the African bush this afternoon. Keep your fingers crossed. For those of you who weren't able to join us this morning, we did lose Karula and the cubs just at the back of Voyatella. They came up and over there's a little ridge just going into the drainage line behind Final Control, so they're in the back here somewhere. I heard squirrels calling a little bit earlier on, but they've stopped calling now, so I'm wondering if they're still in that drainage line at the back there. But we might just have a quick drive up Gallego shortcut and onto Buffelshoek cut line and just see if there's any sign of them they've popped out from that side. Otherwise we'll try and head back here a little bit later on and just see if they come out and about. But there's not too much in the way of antelope this side. I think the waterbuck were there. Waterbuck are a little bit big for Karula, maybe a calf, but she didn't really seem that interested this morning. So if the impala are around, she might try and hunt here if she hasn't been successful somewhere else in the bush. But let's try and go up towards Gallego shortcut, Buffelshoek cut line, and maybe see if those cheetah have made the way this side from Torchwood. I really hope so. And obviously those elephants that were a bit elusive this morning. So lots to try and look for this afternoon, so let's see how we go. If you would like to ask any questions, then please send them through to questions@wildearthsafari.tv. It's always great to hear from you, and let us know where you are from in the world. It's always great to hear. But let's jump aboard.
Okay.
Of elephant tracks heading over there too. And just to give you a bit of an update as well, just in case you weren't on drive this morning, the cubs should be named hopefully by the end of the month. Apparently we got it wrong. Apparently it's actually the person that's been here the longest gets to name the cubs, so it's not the person who found them, it's the person who's been here the longest. We got misinformed on that one. And the person that was here the longest actually left. So he's actually gone further north, I think to Botswana. I think that's where they're heading. So the next in line, or next two people in line, may have the opportunity to name them. So what's going to happen is that names are going to be put forward, and I think they'll choose a couple of names, and we want to try and keep everyone on the same page, because we could name them now, but there's no guarantee that those names will be kept between the Sabi Sands guides, and it can get quite confusing. And they only name the cubs after about a year and a half sometimes, because cub mortality is quite high, so they don't tend to name the cubs until that period. But again, they are going to make an exception for us here on Wild Earth. So everybody, all the guides are in agreement. So hopefully by the end of July, the cubs should have names. Also has been giving us a chance to get to know their characters, because we haven't really seen the cubs that much. Saw Misha and Induna a lot apparently when they were growing up, even from when they were tiny cubs, but I think Karula's been utilising areas that we just haven't been able to get to or find them in, which doesn't help, especially if she's just off of the traversing area, which she has been, Triple M, and in the west she's been found there on a few occasions, but the bush is very thick there too. be quite difficult. Come on, Gundagander. Try and start heading east if I can. Ooh. Looks like there's a snake track. That's because there was a snake track just on the road. The sun's just a little bit too harsh, I think, to see it on camera. Not much room to maneuver there. And they don't go and hibernate, they don't go and find a hole and stay in it for 3 months. They do tend to bask out in the warmth of the day. They find a rock somewhere open to bask in. But they won't move around too much. They'll stick to one place usually. Looking amongst all the roots there, there's a little squirrel that ran off. Gallego shortcuts at the moment. I'm gonna head down Buffer's Cut Line, and I think let's head down towards Cheetah Cut Line and just see where, if those cheetah have come out. Drying up. I've seen elephants playing and bathing and rolling around, and even the rhinos. Oh, sorry, Carla. Is this where you're hanging out? Now, the wind has really been quite strong all day, and that could be one of the reasons why they are a bit skittish. The wind always makes the animals a little bit skittish, especially the herbivores. One of the reasons I've still got my hat on, the wind's not blowing around my ears. I can only imagine what it's like for them. Ladies, there may be a leopard around. Oh, and gents. So, around there. Very easy to tell. I like Impala. Can't get confused. Males with horns, females without. Actually, there's a number of antelope that are helpful like that. Although They tend to be antelope that either live in the bush or may live in the bush and on the open plains like the impala. But when you're living in the bush, there may be a slight hindrance. I spy the buffalo. So if you need to run away from predators and you've got these horns, you may just be getting in the way and catching on branches and things. Good afternoon, boys. Apparently this is the place to hang out this afternoon. I wonder if Joe's watching. Joe, if you're watching, I remember you were asking about the white spots and you were asking about them the other day I saw. But I still haven't been able to find out what the white spots are underneath the eye. You can see this male's got them. And somebody did send through some information. So I can't quite recall who it was now. It was the other day. And there was a mention of the older males having white spots, but there was no mention as to what it was or what could have caused it. But it wasn't quite accurate because we have seen females with these white spots, we have seen youngsters with these white spots underneath the eye, we've seen some that don't have them at all. It says yet I've not been able to find anything to suggest what they can be. It doesn't even get listed in the signs of TB and things like that, so I am at a loss. But I'll keep trying to dig. It floats there in the back of my mind, and every time something comes up I think, ooh, I wonder if it says it in there. Or maybe I have a brainstorm as to where the information might lie. As soon as I find out, I'm hoping I'm going to find out, I'll certainly let you know. Now this is one of the more awkward species because you have males and females carrying horns. That's because you can find them out on the open plains just as some other antelope. And they don't have the protection of the bushes to either hide behind or run around. They have literally just their speed really to try and get away from a predator. So it's thought that they carry horns. The females will also carry horns as a protection. That if she does get cornered, then she might actually be able to protect herself and a calf. Any stations out and drive? We've got 3 Duggar boys on the link road between Gallego Shortcut and Buffalo's Hook Cut Line. Copy that, thank you. Is anyone with the Incombi at Buffalo's Hook Dam at the moment? They went up and over the ridge around the back of our camp, I think into that drainage line. I did hear a squirrel calling down towards the staff compound, but didn't see anything. I'm just here on that link road just in case you came out this side. Pleasure. Have you seen your fluffies today?
I haven't been back. I kept them going to the start, just to the
Okay, copy. see if we can try and catch up with the baboons a little bit later. I think Henry was standing by. Sorry, I didn't copy. Copy that, thank you. See if we can catch up with him in a bit. Yeah, Henry was just saying it sounds like they were heading back onto the quarantine area, and Graham was just confirming that. So hopefully we can try and catch up with them in a little bit. They are the resident trooper baboon, the Gowrie gang, and there's a lot of personalities there. It's quite nice just to catch up with them and the youngsters at the moment. See if we can. Apparently they didn't come home last night. They had a weekend away, midweek. Branch. I think I'm going to be good at spotting the branches. Sounds like there's a rhino up towards Buffelshoek Dam, which is where we were going to be heading. So let's see if we can ping anything this side of Karula. But I think she is still in this drainage line here. So we're going to have a scratch around, see if we can find ourselves some cheetah this afternoon. There was talk that maybe a pack of wild dogs was denning up in Buffelshoek, but I haven't heard anything further than that. So I'm not too sure if it's happened or not. I'm hoping that it will. It'd be wonderful to see the wild dog. To you, Robin Mountain. I'm not sure if you're saying what's causing the white spots, or asking if you misheard me. Asking if the ears, while I'm shaking the flies off and keep hitting the face, is causing the white spots. I know it could be a possibility, but it's almost like the calluses. As I say, you do get some youngsters with them. You do get older ones, and they do tend to change position slightly. So it's not always right under the eye. It can be some further down, but it's somewhere between the eye and somewhere down here. I haven't thought about the ears, but I don't know if years. I think it would have to be years for them to build up. Maybe that's why they say that the older buffalo have them. As I say, we have seen youngsters in the herd, probably about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years old, something around that sort of age, having the white spots. And if it is something, why don't all of them have it? Have they got something on their ears maybe? I'm not seeing. So it's put forward that horses get. So apparently horses get that sometimes. Do you know the disease, Becky? Do you know the horse disease where horses get a mark underneath the eyes? Yeah, Rosie did send it through, I think. Asking, could it be that? It's connected with the rain. No, I forget what it's called now. I'll have to look. I was thinking possibly TB. That's the only thing I could kind of link it to, but there's nothing in all the literature that I found about the TB so far. It's not mentioned the white spots under the eyes as being part of it. And I think that's most likely, but I haven't found anything to really say for sure. Oh, sorry, that was my northern accent coming out there. Wow. My sister used to take the mickey of me, so I had a very, very broad North English accent from Lancaster. It'd be like, take care, Land's on road. But, I think my accent's become less now. Although it pops out occasionally. I'll tell you what it is, because I'm watching the Game of Thrones. It's a new series, and there's a lot of northern actors in it. I think that's what it is. And Sean Bean with his very broad English accent. Suffolk. What was it? Yeah, it was Yorkshire. Anyway, I'm waffling. I'll shut up now. Is it Callie or Kelly? I hope I'm saying your name right. Either Callie or Kelly. Callie. Good afternoon to you. Wondering if I have a favourite season. Now there's a question. It would not be winter. No, I love every season. That's the magic about, I think, anywhere in the world. Every season has something about it, and I think it depends on where you live and how old you are, but there is always something magic. I mean, if you go to somewhere where there's snow, okay, for a lot of people snow can be quite a big inconvenience and quite annoying sometimes, but the beauty of it, the little snowflakes, and just the fact that it can make even a desolate area just look beautiful. There's something about it. I don't enjoy the winter. Saying even the winter time, there's something really nice about the fact that it's cooler temperatures. Okay, this time of day I quite enjoy, and the blue skies and the crispness of the light. There is something, it's quite a harsh light, but I love this light, and it's actually one of the better times for game viewing. You can see further into the bush, so you're more likely to see the animals. So you can see further into the bush. The summertime, you've got the heat, you've got the greenery, and it just looks beautiful and lush. And I think sometimes when people think of Africa, you don't really think of Africa as being lush. But when the rains fall, it's very lush. And even in Ethiopia, it's probably a prime example. Think of Ethiopia, think of dry vegetation, and nothing really can live there, but it's actually, it couldn't be further from the truth, especially in the rainy season. But it's when there's drought, that's when there's the problem. It's beautiful and lush and green. Spring morning you get a lot, just like most places. And autumn you still have nice warm temperatures, you still have fairly lush green grass. The autumn the summer you've had many babies. Well, the animals have many babies, you haven't had many babies. There's a lot of baby animals out and about, and you've got a lot of the breeding going on as well, so it's quite an exciting time for animals and viewing animals. So there's always something to see. Good afternoon, all stations. Is there any update on the skunk hunt this afternoon? Sorry, you're breaking up. Go again.
Yes, negative on them.
Copy, thank you. Hendry, come in. Hendry, is anybody else with the Nkombi?
They said they were on the northern side to the Mali.
Copy, thanks. Who's in charge of the lock?
Come again?
Who's in charge of the lock?
No one. I think it's open. Neil was with them, but I saw him there. He left already. So he said they come north.
Okay, copy. Are you also looking for them?
Yes?
Only drank and they started hitting the possibility they're going to crash. Yeah. No update. Where cheetah were seen on this property. Quite often you get the names of the roads named after the animals that were seen on them. Or sometimes the roads get named after people who made them. So Aubrey's Road may have been made by Aubrey. You have Mamba Road, I'm sure there would have been a Mamba that was seen. Maybe even living around there, that's known to live around there. Standing by?
Lying down here.
Sorry, did you say you've got them?
North of the dam, lying down.
Copy, can I join you? Oh, it's nice and sheltered here. If I was a rhino, I would definitely pick this spot. Rhinos also, it's amazing. It's such a humble animal. Even though they are huge, 2.5 tons, they get spooked by the smallest of things. How many have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's the crash of 5. Fantastic. Yes, it is. Oh, look at this. Actually, it's the 6. It's the 6 rhino. Hey, little mister. We can just maybe move the camera to see floppy ear. You're able to see him.
Yeah, there's a bird was just being
Sorry?
this bird was just being
He's going to sit down. He's saying, can you see him? Did you say?
Oh, yeah, sorry, no, I'm just looking.
Oh, okay. Oh, he's moved now. He's just behind the branch now. Ndlavana, that's it. Sorry, I always keep forgetting the Shangaan. Because we have the floppy-eared hyena. And Ndlavana is floppy-eared in Shangaan. Which is, I think, what Patrick gave this little rhino. Well, the one that's just out of shot on the left-hand side of the screen now. I can't quite see who is the extra rhino. So we have Ndlavana, the floppy-eared little male, and there's usually an older male with a young female who's probably about the same age as Ndlavana, probably about 4, maybe 5 years old. And then there's usually 2 other males, a longhorned male, and then an older looking male who's, I've noticed every time we've seen him, the sides of his lips droop, which I've not seen in a rhino before. Hi Laurie, good afternoon to you. And asking, do we have any poachers here? And we do have an anti-poaching unit who patrol the fence lines and follow up on any suspicious looking tracks, so it seems to work pretty well, and as far as I know, there hasn't been any instances now there may be instances that we don't know about, but I think the anti-poaching patrol, I think, do extremely well. And especially in Kruger, we're actually pretty close to the Kruger boundary. There's a lot of military involvement there, because obviously the rhino is probably one of the biggest problems at the moment, the rhino poaching. But the military have been involved, and I was there the other day and there was actually a vehicle full of the army, and I think that is actually deterring poaching in the Kruger. Something just spooked a couple of them. Oh dear, I think Ndlavana is up to his old tricks. Little floppy in male is highly spirited, if we can say it like that. He's usually the one to start the tussles. Actually see Ndlavana properly. Causing trouble with the little female by the looks of it. He does that, he actually... Enjoy your drive. Okay, I'm just gonna wait for him to leave. And again, with all the rhinos sleeping, well, most of the rhinos sleeping, we don't want to disturb them by too many vehicles moving around. There's the little female. She's probably coming up for breeding age, actually. For females, it's around 4 or 5 years old. I'm just going to move a little bit. Can you see the males over that little tree there? See a couple of males there as well. And squeeze just here, but as I say, I don't want to get too close to the little female. Hi, Johnny, all the way from Washington State, and welcome on board. And welcome to Wild Earth this afternoon with a crash of 6 rhino, all lazing in the afternoon sun, apart from this young female here. Right, Johnny wanting to know what are the little birds on the backs of the rhinos, and they are the red-billed oxpeckers, often called, or in Swahili they're actually called the rhino guard. They're often associated with the rhinos, but they can be found on other animals like the giraffes and buffalo, impala, wildebeest, depends on what's around. But looking for ticks and mucus from the nose, earwax, they eat a lot of that. Often find them diving into the ears for the ticks and the earwax. And what's the significance of the 2 horns and 1 horn? And there's actually 5 species of rhino in the world, white rhino being the largest, and you can see the head of this little female. It's pretty large. So the rhinos that have quite a large head tend to have 2 horns. So The white and the black, which are found here in Africa, have the two horns, and if you look carefully you'll see that the one horn, the smaller horn, is in between the two eyes, and the larger horn over the nose and mouth. So those soft, vulnerable areas, and the whole reason for the horns is to protect those areas. If you go across to Asia, you have the greater one-horned rhino and the lesser one-horned rhino. Greater is also known as the Indian rhino, and the lesser is known as the Javan rhino. So they have one horn. They've got a much smaller head. And the Sumatran rhino actually has two horns, and I think they do have probably a slightly larger head than the Javan. And it's a quite unusual looking rhino. It's quite hairy. I've often referred to it as a Jim Henderson puppet. It does look like something a bit like a Muppet character. Doesn't look quite right because it does have hair. I don't really associate hair with rhino. But nevertheless, it is a hairy little rhino, found on the island of Sumatra. Standing by if you're wanting to come into the Nkambi lock. Do you know where it is? Okay, copy. You're welcome to pull in. It's amazing how relaxed this little female's getting. She was a little bit skittish this time last year, if I remember. But she's settling down really nicely. She's actually come over to inspect us a couple of times. And that's one thing about rhinos. Don't ever underestimate their intelligence. They're actually a very intelligent animal. And I'm pretty sure capable of recognising people and cars. Depends on how much exposure they get. There you go, you can see the little floppy-eared male at the back, and Lavana. Can you see there? Oops. Strong little one. You might actually be able to hear the Oh, did you just lose the picture now?
Yeah, chicken.
Copy that. Yeah, we haven't moved. Did you see us move a little bit towards the rhino? There's a red-billed oxpecker. I don't know how much of what I was saying a little bit earlier you got. We had a drop in signal there. Rhinos are very intelligent creatures, and I think capable of recognising individual vehicles and people. It just depends on how much exposure they get to the different vehicles and people. But I have seen it, and even with captive rhinos, I have seen that. But it does take a while to build up that relationship. You're able to maybe just watch the oxpecker on the females back there.
I've just been on there.
Just wanted to show something. There we go. If you watch carefully, you can see it running up and down over her body. And they've actually got 2 toes pointing forward and 2 toes pointing back to actually aid in that. So instead of the 3 toes forward and 1 back like a lot of the perching birds, they have 2 toes forward, 2 toes back. And that's known as zygodactyl foot structure. And a few other birds have that, especially ones that scramble up and down trees, and it just gives them a little bit more mobility. You can see one right inside the ear there. I'm sure they must get quite irritating. You'll sometimes see them, the rhinos or the giraffe, shaking them off. And there's even, as I was saying earlier, they're looking for the earwax and the mucus and even blood. And there's a little bit of an interesting possibility that they actually do more harm than good sometimes, especially if the animal has a cut. And they'll keep that cut open and keep feeding actually on the blood. And it's actually, when they're feeding on ticks, it's actually the blood they're after. And this little red-billed oxpecker eats more of the bodily fluids than maybe the yellow-billed oxpecker does. It's always worth just checking the oxpeckers. There may be the odd 1 or 2 yellow-billed oxpecker around. They can occur in the same area. And where they do, as I say, there's a slight difference in what they eat. The yellow-billed oxpecker tends to eat the larger ticks and not as much of the bodily fluids as the red-billed, so they can actually coexist together. But I think there's got to be a lot to be said for them. I think they do keep the animals quite nice and clean, and they do take ticks off the body, so I think they must help to a certain degree. Coming over to say hello. The car behind actually had a roof, and I wonder if that was what she didn't like. Hey little one, you're gonna come and say hello? Hello. And Johnny, I think if you've seen the picture with the baby rhino, I think you were asking about no horns on rhinos. And it just suddenly occurred to me, maybe you saw the baby rhino. Because the horns start growing once they're born, so they are born without the horns. Just like other antelope, but it's actually a different substance. Their horn is made from keratin, which is a protein the same as your fingernail and your hair on your head. It's exactly the same. So it only starts to grow once they're born. And you kind of guesstimate the age to a certain degree, judging by the length of the horn, but you do have to take certain considerations into account. Especially when it comes to the males. We've got the short-horned male rhino, and his horn is quite short, but I think his has been blunted by maybe fighting and lots of marking on trees and rubbing on trees. But usually when you get the second horn growing, that's about a year old. You can see those huge ears, almost like satellite dishes, just turning constantly, keeping a check of what's going on around them. I think it's becoming clear now who might be the sixth rhino, and there he is. If you remember, we had the blunt-horned female who had a new calf with her. It was about 3 or 4 months old. And remember, last time we saw her was with the crash of 5. And I wonder if this little male is her youngster. It's about the right size, the horn length's about the same. And it is a little male. So I think that's who the sixth rhino is. Maybe she was dropping him off with them. Because even at this age, I'd put him probably about 3, 3.5. He's just probably about a year behind the little female. Maybe about 4 even. Something like that. And they still need to have company at that age. But what I've seen is that the young males tend to move away at this age if their mother gives birth to another. So I wonder if that's what's happened. And they're actually quite sociable if you look at them. He's looking for trouble. I don't know what he was doing there. I think he wanted a bit of attention from that little floppy-eared male. Unfortunately, we're just in the wrong position to see, but I don't want to move at the moment. This little female's getting quite close now. It was probably almost the equivalent of licking him. And Ndlava just turned around and told him no. Hello, little boy. Is he using the female as a rubbing post? You might have heard that. That was one of the older males I think he's getting a bit irritated with him. If we can just maybe have a look at him at the back there, because he's still causing a little bit of trouble at the back. Seeming his head on the back of one of the other males now. It's almost like he's being a naughty little boy. Naughty little 5-year-old. Probably be about the equivalent. Maybe a little bit older. Maybe about 7 or 8-year-old. Still needing the attention of an adult. Settling down now. They're all and relationship. But there's a couple of symbiotic relationships going on with the red-billed oxpecker. There's the mutualistic, when they are gleaning the ticks from the animals, because both will gain something from it. That's where it's mutualistic. And there's a lot of mutualistic relationships between animals and birds, and birds and birds, and insects and birds, and insects and animals, where both gain something. So the oxpecker gains food and somewhere to live. So everything is done on the animal. Courting, mating, feeding, even going to water on the animal, even if they just jump off and drink. And they'll eventually get to water if they stay with the animal. And the animal gains less or loses parasites. But there's also possibly a slightly parasitic relationship, especially with animals that do have wounds, where the oxpeckers are, and they keep the wounds open. It is thought to be parasitic to a certain degree. But then I suppose it could be argued they're keeping the wound clean, so there's a bit of a trade-off there. Nothing is clear-cut. Okay, well, let's leave these guys and girl. But I'm very pleased that we're able to see who the extra rhino is in the crash, and I think unless something happens, whether they decide to break off, I'm hoping they don't. It's nice to see a number of rhinos together. Occasionally the male and the young female break away and they go the separate way, and the long-horned male also. And we've even seen Undlavana, the floppy-eared male, also go his separate way, and he was actually hanging out with the blunt-horned female and the little male for a little while. So maybe there was a friendship that struck up there and the little male followed him. It's amazing. So when you watch rhino, you think, okay, it's a rhino. They don't really do too much. They eat and sleep and maybe drink a little bit. But if you're willing just to spend a little bit of time with them, you can learn a lot about them. And even just, as I say, finding out who the 6th rhino is, it's actually starting to put a piece of the puzzle together. And I did wonder where that little male went. And say, I'm pretty much convinced, I think 99% sure that it is that little male from the blunt-horned female. And I was thinking the other day, I wonder where he'd gone. Well, little lady, I was thinking of going, but are you going to get startled if I turn the vehicle on? And I'm hoping if anybody's had a bad experience with the rhino, I hope this is proving to you that not all rhinos are in bad moods and not all rhinos are going to charge at you. And rhinos in general are pretty gentle creatures. Just sometimes things happen to put them in a bad mood. Especially if males have been fighting, there's a lot of testosterone in the body and they're going to be a lot more aggressive. Sometimes if you get too close to a male like that, the skew-horned male that we saw the other day is known to be a little bit more on the aggressive side. I'm not too sure why or what his story is, but again, just giving that extra bit of distance to a rhino that you don't know, or even rhinos that you do, and just seeing how they react as you approach should let you know how they're feeling that day. You might even be able to see the feet nicely from here. Be able to quickly zoom in on the feet, just in case anybody's never seen or never had a chance to see the foot of a rhino before. Good opportunity to see it. We're able just to go onto the foot. I think she might just lift it up. There we go. You can see the two nails. You can see the outside nail and the front nail. There's another nail on the other side, so they've got actually three toes. And if she lifts her foot up, oh, too quick. But a little bit like an elephant footprint. It's quite a wide track, and it needs to obviously support such a large weight. You can just about see the groove, the separation between the toes there. I don't know if you can hear that. Just the sound of her lips smacking together. It's beautiful. All right, lady. All right, lady. Now, Rhino's eyesight is not brilliant, but it's possibly, she saw possibly some movement on the back there, some quick movement, and it caught her eye, especially with the sun behind. I think it probably exaggerated that movement. Something caught her eye, and I think that's what she was just a little bit wary of. She wasn't too sure. Sorry everybody, I was just keeping my voice down for the little female that was coming close. She was probably about 3 meters away from us. Now their eyesight is not brilliant, but at that distance they will be able to see movement and they'll be able to see at least shapes. Probably not in great detail, but they will be able to see something. And I think with the sun just behind, she possibly just saw some movement on the back of the vehicle there, even if it was just slight. There was something that just caught her eye and she wasn't too sure of. I think that's what that reaction was from. But you can see she's not upset by it. She was just like, ooh, maybe I'm a little bit too close. Not quite sure of that. But she's just backed away and carried on grazing. I'm hoping you're able to hear the sound of the lips, and that's got to be one of my favourite sounds in the world, is the lips smacking together, and it's just such a calming sound. You may have noticed as she was eating there, she's actually just using her lips to pull bits of grass and to actually crop the grass. So it's not the teeth that's involved in that, it's the lips themselves. And then the vegetation gets sucked back to the back of the mouth where the molars are, and that's when it starts to get ground down. But definitely quite a beautiful close encounter, and it's great to see that she is actually starting to relax more and more each time we find her. But I think let's leave them now. I was saying that we were going to leave earlier, but as I say, she came a little bit close and I didn't want to disturb her by turning on the vehicle. But I think there was a question, if we can just have the question repeated there. As we pull out. She didn't even flinch, look at that. And look at that, all 5 rhinos still sleeping. And that is how we want to leave the rhinos. Nice and relaxed, not a care in the world. Stations leaving the Nkombe northern side of Opposite Dam Open Lock, Lalapanzi. Standing by. Affirmative, a Lalapanzi at the moment. And good afternoon to you, Peterson. I'm hoping it's Peterson. Wondering if the female with the calf will join the herd once the baby gets a bit older. And I think rhinos are actually a lot more sociable than what they were given credit for, even black rhinos. But they don't usually make big herds, and in some places they don't even make herds at all. I don't know if that's the reduction in numbers, but I think areas where they're able to, they do seem to like to be sociable. I mean, you've got 2 big males there. And yet males are supposed to be solitary. The usual way of things is a female may have a couple of calves with her, different ages. If it's a female she tends to stay a little bit longer than the males do. Females I've seen maybe about 5, 6 years, sometimes 7 years old, staying with the female until she has a calf of her own. And she can also have a younger calf, or even a calf at foot. So if the previous calf was a female the same age as the male, she may have stuck with the female while she has a new calf. And it's quite normal to see maybe the 2 females and a calf. Sometimes the males will stay. It just, I think, depends on the female and depends on the circumstances. And it could be that little male decided to leave her. It could be that she chased him. It's really not an easy one to say exactly what happened. It could have been a bit of both. And maybe having the young male, the floppy-eared male, who was socialising with them for a little bit, maybe having him there, it made it sort of easier for him to leave her and still have some socialisation or socialising with other rhinos, so he still had the company. I've even seen an older female, probably about 5, and her young brother split away from her mother or their mother and go off by themselves. It could even be what happened with the young female who we've just seen and the male. It could be their brother and sister, and they split away for whatever reason, and she's been with him, just a little bit young. Maybe something happened to her with the mother, who knows. But I'd say quite an unusual combination, not one that I've seen often. In fact, at all, I think it's the only time I've known an older male with a younger female of non-breeding age. The more you look into the dynamics of the rhinos, the more complicated it gets, which is really quite interesting. For an animal that was always thought to be solitary and aggressive, and it's just not that at all. Buffalo dung, looking like it was possibly some wild dog dung. It's funny hearing different accounts from different people. I heard our short-horn male rhino can get very aggressive when he wants to be, and yet I've never seen him be aggressive. Apparently he has beat up a couple of rhinos in the past and chased them off. I was hearing from a guide the other day, and I kind of looked at him and went, "What? Shorthorn? As in the shorthorn that lives here?" Because I've never seen him be aggressive. I've always seen him be quite relaxed. And even when pushing one of the younger males, and possibly one of the crash of 5, even that young male I was just talking about, the female, and he was pushing him, he wasn't showing any aggression, he was just there. I think just the pure fact that he was there was irritating this younger male. But he was challenging him, he was bellowing at him, the ears were back, and he was sort of taking a couple of steps towards him, but he wasn't actually engaging him in a fight, which said to me that he was still fairly young. And maybe not really wanting to get into a fight, but still kind of trying to tell the older rhino back off. And Shorthorn kind of just ignored him, fell on deaf ears, and he carried on eating, and almost he actually turned his back to him at one stage. And he started walking towards him. No ears flattened, so that's a sign of aggression. He was just kind of just putting pressure on quite peacefully. It was quite interesting to watch. And he was just like that the whole day. He was on his trail. Very interesting. But it could be that it was a young male. He wasn't spraying in his territory. He kind of realised he was a young male and he didn't really need to put too much force behind it. time to time. She has associated with that crash before. It's possible. I don't see cheetah here very often. It's an open plain. There's a cheetah on my old reserve who thought she was actually a leopard and preferred this type of habitat to hunting. Oh. Yes? No? Yes. Maybe I'll get that bird on the end of the this little tree opposite us. Yep, that one there, right on the furthest branch on the right. Okay. What bird is it? Send your answers through to questions@wildearthsafari.tv. Oh no, we haven't ID'd on Drive yet. Although, I think you might have ID'd it on Drive with Mark. Quite possibly. We're trying to build up a live Drive bird list, and any birds that we haven't ID'd already, and letting everybody ID them. And at the moment it's only the residents, we don't have the migrants, with it being the winter. Oh, thank you so much. Turning around and actually letting us see them quite nicely there. Sorry, no, not a sound you want to hear. Maybe, actually, open it up to, you send the answer through, send through a favourite fact as well, see what we get back. favourite fact of that bird. Sending through the answer. Just to make it a little bit more interesting as well. See what comes back. I'm still looking for the parrots. Still looking for the parrots. Hopefully one day we can catch them on drive again. Yeah, they do tend to be camera shy. We're going to drive the length of Cheetah Cut Line just in case we need to look at those cheetahs from this morning. They were in Torchwood. Torchwood is the property to our left, further east. And I always thought this was Karula's boundary, that she was seen going into Torchwood, and it seems like she does go over there occasionally, maybe to check out hunting possibilities. Even cheetah will use termite mounds as vantage points. And even trees. There was a fantastic picture someone sent the other day. Again, apologies, I can't remember. I'm useless when it comes to names. I'll try my best. But someone sent it through and there was a picture of an adult cheetah in a dead tree, and then I think 3, 4, 5 cubs also in the tree playing. Which goes to show the cheetah can climb trees. There's a little squirrel in the road. I mentioned a squirrel earlier on drive. If anybody's never seen a tree squirrel before, that is a tree squirrel. Granted, it's on the ground at the moment. But it's still a tree squirrel. Hippos or rhinos? Hi Mike, good afternoon to you. Wondering how old do rhinos get? Looking probably about a lifespan, if nothing happens to them, about 40-45 years. Quite a long lived. I'm getting charged by a squirrel here. Brave little thing. And also wondering if there's been a clash between rhinos and elephants. Sorry, little one. I'm gonna have to disturb you now. Ah. There he goes. Oh, gone. I think he was debating whether he should run down the side of the vehicle or not. Unfortunately, it was just taking a little bit long. So, battle between rhino and elephant. I think you're referring to the Pilanesberg a little while ago when it's quite a sad story that they actually moved elephants into the Pilanesberg, but they actually moved elephants that had come from think Kruger actually. I think it was Kruger. Quite a number of years ago now, when they actually sadly shot elephants to keep the numbers down. And unfortunately, there wasn't really much understood about the family life. And I think the older elephants were actually shot, and the younger elephants were then moved to Pilanesberg. I think that was how it happened. And unfortunately, these elephants, obviously having witnessed that as well, were a little bit unstable anyway. But they actually didn't have anyone to keep them in check, and these elephants became quite a problem. So a few instances later, the incidents included these elephants, as they were getting older, they were coming into must pretty early as well, and they were actually tipping vehicles over and damaging vehicles, and even harming rhinos, because they were actually trying to mate with the rhinos because there was no other elephants there. So it was actually quite a big problem. So they were breaking the rhinos' backs because of it. So then they decided to move some of the big males, up to a swing. They actually did reduce the amount of clashes between the elephants and the rhinos. But it was only when they decided to move females into the park did it actually really stop altogether. Sure, look at that. Can you see?
Yeah, can you go forward a bit? That's
Oh, you need me to go forward. That? There we go. So just to finish off, I don't think there's been any problems here in the Kruger because there is a balance between the females, the males, the calves. So as far as I know, there hasn't been clashes like that here in Kruger in the Sabi Sands.
Confirm I still in the east. Negative, I went back north.
And another day draws to a close. Can we have the people who ID'd again? Sarah, Woodland Kingfisher. Alan, Hooded Kingfisher. Stacy, Grey-headed Kingfisher, and Valerie, Brown-hooded Kingfisher. So quite a variety there. At least we've got all Kingfishers right. And Robert, a Kingfisher. So at least we've got the Kingfisher. So quite a variety. Unfortunately, the grey-hooded and the woodland are migrants, so they're not here this time of year. But nice try. They have gone further north. They're intra-African migrants. They go to Central Africa, where it still stays nice and warm. Deserters. So the brown-hooded kingfisher is the right answer. Well done, Valerie. Brown-hooded, not as much blue on the body, so that one's still got a lot of brown. You may have seen that the slightly electric blue, which is where I think the woodland kingfisher came from, and the red bill, but they've got both the upper and lower parts of the bill are red, whereas in the woodland you've got just the one part. I forget which way around it is. I think it's the upper part, and the other one's black. Grey hooded. Also, the blue is not electric. It's actually more of a royal blue, actually. Beautiful blue. And they have chestnut. They've got the grey and then the chestnut on the belly to look out for. But at least we got to Kingfisher. This is good. Any facts that came through on that bird? Thank you very much for sending your guesses through. Well done. Well, no sign of the chitta. That's very sad. So let's head up. We'll slowly start making our way. Not slowly. We're going to start making our way towards the quarantine area. Can't believe how quickly the sun is setting. We'll try and make our way back to the quarantine area before the sun sets, but the baboons might have already started heading back to base. The trees by Yuri's house. Might have to try and catch up with them tomorrow morning. I think there was another question that I didn't get to earlier. Just before Kingfisher IDs came in. Ah, rhino horn. Rhino horn. Hi Liam, over there in Australia. I hope you're well. How long can a rhino horn get? Oh, it's another numbers question. Why did I remind about that one? I think, if I can remember rightly, I think it's about a metre, maybe about the front horn. And maybe someone can double check for us, because I forget facts, number facts very easily. I think about a metre. Someone did ask this a while ago, and I thought, and I'll try and remember, and I thought I had. I think the longest one I've seen is probably about this big. So that is probably about a metre. And I heard it grows about 5 millimetres every year. That seems to be pretty fast growing. Could be true. Elephant crossed over here. Might catch him at the dam. He's gone this way. Sure, 79 inches, 200 centimetres in length. Really? And the smaller horn, 90 centimetres, 35 inches. Wow, I don't remember it being that. I remember him getting that. Oh, hippo out of water. There's our little hippo that's been in the water. I can turn it very quickly. Bit confused about the two meters. Maybe I've got it written down somewhere. Okay, I'm going to try and reverse back. It's hidden behind the bush. Annette was asking how the injured hippo is. So this is proving that he's out of the water. It is our little injured hippo, and obviously grazing, which is where we found the tracks heading towards this morning. Okay, can't see him there. Maybe we can go on a little bit further. Just about seeing there. Unfortunately, it's a baboon pan where we can't actually go and drive. There he is. And so I don't think he's going to have a problem. I think he's just finding some quiet time so he can allow the wounds to heal. And especially with him eating, it looks like he's moving around fine. Horn length for a rhino. I've got it written down as about 1.5 meters. So maybe 2 meters was a record. Maybe about 1.5 meters average. As I say, animals can be quite resilient, but it is always difficult to see animals that are injured, and you do want to go and help them. But it's the sad part of nature. I mean, whenever an animal, a carnivore, takes down another animal, it is always a loss of life, and there's something quite exciting about it, but there's something always very sad about it, and it's these mixture of emotions. It's never easy. And so with it being a fairly young hippo, I'm thinking it got in the way of a male trying to mate with a female. That's my gut feeling, but it is difficult to say. But the fact that he's actually moving and feeding, hopefully he should pull through. Be a lot more concerned if he wasn't getting out of the water and feeding. But certainly finding those tracks this morning, which indicated they had recently been feeding, is a very good sign. Okay, well, it's going into the thicker bushes now, so let's leave him to it. See that hole there? This has been his little wallow in here. That's where he's been taking refuge. I'll just pan the camera so everyone can see. Just a definitely him or her. So I'll have to try and think of cheetah thoughts tonight to see if the cheetah will come this way tomorrow, but maybe they've headed back to Nkoro. Apparently it was 3 brothers, and there was 1 brother at Nkoro, so I wonder if they've all gone to join up together again. Too dark for the baboons. I don't know, best laid plans. We can still head around towards the dam. Nancy coming back with a study done in 1996. Dr. Nicky Van Stream, 2006, so fairly recently. Apparently recorded the longest horn being 56 centimeters. 150 centimeters, 59 inches. So I wonder where. That's quite interesting. Apparently the longest rhino horn alone is longer than the average adult length of an adult pig. Now, which species of pig would that be? They're quite interesting still. Oh! I sort of sneaked it. Did you happen to move the camera? No. There was a mongoose sitting on the termite mound, but it wasn't a slender mongoose. It wasn't a banded mongoose. It wasn't a dwarf mongoose. It could have been the Ichamon, the Egyptian mongoose. One that we don't rarely see here. Sitting on the termite and as if it's a branch. I didn't want to say anything and scare it off. Wasn't the white-tailed mongoose either. That would have been very nice. Definitely have to keep a lookout around there in the future. Oh, I was going to go that way, wasn't I? So I wonder where the 200 centimetre one came in. Unless that's a trophy from a long time ago. Okay. So that came from a site on Google somewhere, and that's something actually when you do check things out on the internet. I usually like to cross-reference. I usually try and take 2 or 3 sites if I can. Sometimes it's not always possible with measurements and things like that. You should take a couple of 2 or 3 sites, maybe even 4, because each site may give something slightly different. So if you get an average of all of those, you might actually get something. And even books, there's a lot of books that will give different ages and different heights and weights and things like that. And what you got to remember is a lot of these, they can be taken from animals in captivity, and they tend to be heavier and larger than animals in the wild because they're well fed and cared for, and they don't have any stresses in their lives. And the ages also tend to be a lot longer because of that. So you may get some books quoting the captive animal statistics, you may get some books quoting the wild animal statistics, you may get books quoting the average between the two, so that's why you do get quite a big variant. I say though, 2 meter long horn on a rhino, I don't really recall seeing any rhinos even approaching that. I was quite shocked when I heard it. So I think the average rhino horn would be about 1 meter. The record has been found 2006 by Dr. Nicholas. About 1.5 meters. There's a little bit more to that tale. Apparently, this rhino horn was found around the 1900s by Sir William Cummings. Was that his name? Warden. Sir William Warden's Cummings. Oh, sorry, Gordon's. As in Gordon's gin. So William Gordon's Cummings, and apparently it's gone missing. And that was from Nancy. Thanks, Nancy. Appreciate that information. Very interesting information. Another question from Liam. So thanks for that question about the rhino horn, Liam. And it's always interesting, and that's one of the reasons why if we don't know it, we always open it up. We always find something interesting out. Everybody sends in information. At this time, wanting to know, do we find the serval here? And we have seen a serval once since I've been with Father. A serval having big ears, spots. They actually look like a miniature cheetah. And we saw them out on, or saw one out on the quarantine area. So another reason why these days I'm wanting to head around that area, because there's white-tailed mongoose that lives there. Sometimes we get the jackal there. Sometimes we get the African wildcat. Sometimes we get the genet. So there's a possibility of seeing all these small nocturnal creatures. Got a nightjar in the middle. Hey, little nightjar, you going to stay there? Oh, okay. Gonna fly before we actually had a chance to view it. Was that Christy? I've just suddenly thought as well, just saying that it's not the Egyptian mongoose, it's the Mellors mongoose. You're right, it doesn't occur here in the Sabi Sands or Kruger. I think it's the Mellors mongoose. Just check on the Mellors mongoose for me. See, we just don't see it often enough. Someone can check that the Mellors mongoose should be found here. getting excited about a mongoose that isn't actually found here. Thanks, Christy, for checking that one up. And who is that, sorry? I keep missing the names. Alan. Alan! Good afternoon to Alan. And Christy too. Wanting to know, is there another name for the Mellors mongoose? There might be. Let me check. Quickly check. See, I can check the distribution while we're at it. Hold on. I can actually show you a picture of it as well. Yeah, I think it is the Mellors mongoose. Doesn't actually list any other names. Don't think I've heard of Mellors mongoose being called anything else. So slightly bigger than the a bit of a spotlight going on here. Slightly bigger than the slender mongoose, but not as fluffy as the marsh, because my actual first thought was a marsh mongoose, but his coat wasn't long enough for that. So that's the marsh mongoose. Oops. I need more hands. That's the marsh mongoose there, which we may also get in the area. But the fur is very, very thick and tail very bushy, which is what I thought it was to begin with. And it was quite a stocky, larger than the banded mongoose that we get, and it was on its own. Larger than the slender mongoose that we get. The distribution here looks like it should be here, and I'm sure it is the Mellors. I'll just get myself mixed up with the Egyptian. And I remember seeing one run across the road, and I was convinced it wasn't one of the other mongoose. I was convinced it was this mongoose. And that was probably this time last year, actually.
Stations, I'm leaving the Slombing Yari on the KMC boundary on the Firebreak Road.
Apparently there is a big herd of buffalo around by Kruger. Unfortunately, we're not able to go that side. And let's keep heading around here. Although, I did check the tree list the other day for the Slavi Sands, and the cougar berry wasn't on it. Stroxylon apificum. There's one on this road. A couple on this road. So there's a couple of trees missing off of that list. I'm pretty sure the mammals one will be pretty good. Although, actually, I looked at the mammals one the other day and found that shrew wasn't on there, and we had a couple of shrews up by the house. Sadly, one of them died. It actually went swimming in the pool and didn't get out. We managed to save another one. I'm just going to have a quick check up around River Road, and then we'll head on to the quarantine area. Hello hippos. If you want to keep watching what the hippos are doing, then tune into the Waterhole channel. And with the lights there, you can actually see quite nicely what they get up to at night as well. Hi Stacey, over there in Australia. Good afternoon, or good morning to you, I think it will be now. Wondering if hippos and rhinos are related. And very, 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 very distantly related. And that the only thing they really share is the fact that they're a herbivore. Rhinos are closely related to zebras, and also the South American tapirs. They also have 3 toes. They're known as the odd-toed ungulates or hoofed mammals. Whereas the hippos have actually found are closely related to the whales. They used to be classified in with the even-toed or even-hoofed mammals like the giraffe and camels, the deer, the antelope, the pigs.
Okay, it's not one of the windmill trucks. Must be the one like that.
Okay, hippos. So if you want to keep a watch on what they get up to, then the Waterhole channel is the way to go. So let's go and drive up a little bit of Mvubu Road, and then we'll head down towards the quarantine area and just see what's happening around there. So I also want to drive around the areas where we have seen honey badger tracks. So it really would be awesome to see a honey badger. And it is kind of lightning striking. And it sounds like the lions from this morning are still around Cheetah Plains, which is also southeast from where we are. We're not able to drive over that side, but just for interest's sake, it sounds like the Kruger lionesses. There's a small pride called the KMP pride that crossed the boundary into Kruger. Apparently it's those lionesses that are down there on Cheetah Plains.
here. Three in a row, two times in a row goes on the top of the platform. Yes, okay, thank you, Paul. I'm on at that west of here. I'm heading west. I would like to start the program. That's all it.
I was just looking for Ephraim. Did you say he had something on Gary May?
No, he's heading west along Gary May.
Okay, copy. Just checking around for any owls here too. Okay, well let's go and check out the quarantine area, see if that throws up any unusual sightings. I think because we have a lot of the main carnivores here, actually just thinking about it, I think I saw on the Sabi Sands list there was no brown hyena on the Sabi Sands list that I was checking as well. We've definitely had a confirmed sighting of one. That was with Peter a year or two ago. And thanks to Carol as well, she posted up a short clip from when Peter had 2 honey badgers and the spotted hyena, and the honey badgers were raising their tails and being quite aggressive towards the much larger spotted hyena. And I think that's where the honey badgers really get their reputation from, and even lions will run away from honey badgers. Can be quite aggressive little creatures when they want to be. And it just goes to show you really don't know what to expect on drive. Every day is different. And anything can happen. You could have a honey badger run right out in the middle of the road. We could have a crocodile just deciding to move out onto the road. I don't think the crocodile is still around here. I think it has moved on, but you never know. Could be a giant eagle owl sitting in this tree here. Could be a lion sitting just up ahead of us. And that is the magic of the bush. You really don't know what you're going to see. I often had guests ask me, what are we going to see? It's always difficult to really answer. Be like, well, I'm not too sure what we're going to see. Unfortunately, the only thing we can guarantee in this job is that there's trees and rocks, and that's the only thing that we really can guarantee. Otherwise, who knows? Possibilities are endless. Jenny. Good evening to you. Wanting to know what the average high and low temperatures are. Wondering, do you mean just throughout the year or the season? The year, summer is probably peaking around 43, 45 I think we had last year. Remember some of the equipment had problems last year. So it was too hot, it was overheating. Incredible time, never experienced that before. It's the low temperatures. Ooh. Okay, get the camera ready. I think we found one of the nocturnal animals, and I'm hoping it's going to stick around. Okay. Yeah, if I can shine the light there, can you see it? Oh, it's moving. Okay, let me see if I can get into this gap here. I think swing around to the other side because I'm going to pull in this side. Swing around the other side, that's it. Just see if I can catch the eyes again. Could have been the African wildcat. It's moving a little bit like that. I think someone was asking the other day, can we get otters here? And I think we've actually seen on the camera, the waterhole camera once, there was certainly something that looked like it could have been the otter. And we could get them here. Short-clawed otter. Oh, I think it's gone. That's the second time that we've had the creature here, and I think it was an African wildcat. The only problem with the nocturnal animals, I don't see the vehicles as often as the diurnal animals. So they tend to be a little bit more skittish around the vehicles. I was hoping maybe just a change in direction. We might have just been lucky to pick it up again. Just saw the eyes and a tail. The winter temperatures in the morning, I think we've been going down to a couple of degrees. During the day, it can actually get much higher, probably into its teens, low teens, maybe mid-teens. Some days I think it can even get into its 20s in the winter time. Okay, got some impala there. But I'm not going to shine the spotlight on them now. It is dark now, so it's not good to shine on diurnal animals. I can see a couple of dark shadows in the trees. Maroons are there. moved. That's not fair. Oh, ha! I didn't think it was this eye. Scrub hair! Again, we're not going to keep the light on too long. Could be food for somebody. But I think it was his eye that we saw. You don't get the rabbits here. So, only the one species of hare, the scrub hare, that we get here in the Sabi Sands. Being nocturnal. But it may be food for leopards sometimes. We've seen Mishu hunting scrub hare during the day, flushed one out. And even jackal eating scrub hare. Maybe even lions sometimes. They haven't been able to catch anything too big. They will turn their sights to something small. Cats are opportunistic, as are many of the carnivores. If the opportunity is there, they'll take it. It was funny actually, I remember a story in my old lodge. I had a boma area where we were sitting around the fire, and the boma is just like a fenced off area so you can sit in relative safety. And we'd just taken the guests to bed. And as the guides came back, this is actually unfortunately just before I arrived there, as the guides came back, they found out that a scrub hare had run into this area. Now that should have sent warning bells off already. And one of the managers actually chased it out. And as he chased it out, there was a lion sitting on the lawn just outside the boma, watching him. And instead of running back into the boma, he made a beeline to a little hut that wasn't too far away from the boma, but for some reason he decided that was the more safer place to be. And apparently he doesn't know how he did it, but he vaulted over one of the barriers that was, or the handles, which was probably just over waist high, but would have been quite a feat to see. But he vaulted over it and managed to get inside the office and shut the door. This lioness obviously scared the scrub hare into the boma and then disappeared just as the guides came back. Hi Anita. Good afternoon to you over in Sweden. And I haven't heard anything more about the Nkuhumas. I think they've been keeping low. Yeah, there's some koala down there. Okay, there's a leopard that's been seen up by, I think it's actually Buffalo's Hook. I think it's in Buffalo's Hook. 3 in a row pan. I'll have to try and check where that is. Someone said it might be Karula, but he's not 100% sure. Could be she's looking for hunting again. So if it is Karula, I'm sure it'll be coming this side. It might not be. It's difficult difficult to say for sure who it is apparently. But again, just outside of our traversing area. Let's try this side. But the Impala are split up, which is quite interesting. Seeing little groups of Impala here, there and everywhere. Whereas usually they make quite a big herd. And here's a bit of interesting trivia for you. Apparently this month is the month that Neptune has done one full circuit, one full orbit, since being discovered in 165 years ago. It's going to have done one full orbit this month. Our furthest planet. There's some more Impala heading this way. I wonder if anybody did check on the list if it was Mellor's mongoose. That was confusing with the Egyptian mongoose. I'm hoping to find its larger cousin. The white-tailed mongoose. I wonder if she did drop the cubs off behind in that drainage line. I do wonder. There's quite quite a nice thick drainage line there. Nice thick vegetation. Zoe's Road. It's a slightly thicker vegetation, so we might have luck with the serval here. Also renowned for actually catching birds. It'll launch itself into the sky to actually catch a bird in mid-flight as it flies off. Caracal also. Caracal more so than the serval. Servals tend to catch a lot of rodents, but it's able to catch the birds in mid-flight. As I say, we don't see them very often, I think, because of the amount of leopard and lion activity that we get here. It's kind of a trade-off. So the less you have in that regard, the more the smaller creatures they see. Otherwise, they tend to keep themselves. It's not to say that they're not here, they just tend to keep them in the thicker parts of the bush. Bush babies or chameleons. Actually, chameleons we probably won't see too much of now. Again, they tend to go into the thicker parts of the bush. like Hendry's just confirmed that it is Krumula. Just in case anybody missed that, they found Krumula over in Buffelshoek, heading east from Blankpole. Unfortunately, again, we're not able to go and view her. So hopefully she'll make her way back here tomorrow morning. Maybe she'll be successful. Sounds like she's struggling a little bit to hunt. Sound like she's managed to get anything big. But her belly didn't look very thin. Belly still looked like it had something, so maybe she's been catching birds and things like that, but she hasn't managed to find anything too big. Could be she found something in the drainage line. Could be that she hunted a bushbuck or something, or even a daker or a steenbok, one of the dwarf antelopes, and left the cubs with it. It certainly looks or sounds like she's out on the prowl again. Again, the cubs should be able to hunt for themselves small rodents, maybe some mongoose, even scrub hares. They might be able to tackle a scrub hare at this age. And they're certainly trying the guinea fowl this morning. And unfortunately, the guinea fowl had cottoned onto them. That's what alerted us to what was going on down the down where the monkey's calling and the guinea fowl calling. And I think it was they were both fighting that was the calls that were being heard. I think the female lions that may have been calling were probably a bit further south. We didn't find anything around Treehouse Down. Someone else did also have a look around there and they didn't find anything either.
que could be city with him.
Yeah, I'm just trying to bounce the light off the road just so I don't blind it. You can see the huge eye with it being a nocturnal bird. And that huge eye is to try and increase as much light into the eye as possible. Sitting on the other side of the road now. Go and sit a little bit further down the road as they normally do. There we go. Sorry, little nightjar. You still see it? Hmm? Is it gone? Keep hearing rustles in the bush and then realising it's actually me driving over dead leaves. Another nightjar in the road. Well behaved. Serval or honey badger or both. Great to see you this evening. Vickers Road, very quiet. I was thinking about going through to the hyena den. Those curbs are just a little bit too small still to really put a spotlight on them at the moment. It's not too bad once, just as the sun's going down, just to add a little bit of light. It's as dark as this, really a good idea. At some stage we'll check in with the hyenas and see how the cubs are doing. Or even a porcupine. I see a porcupine. I've seen one here on the way to the gate. So it is possible to see them. Yeah, you just have to be in the right place at the right time. I wonder if we can just have a couple more minutes just to get to the other side where we saw that African wildcat. Just in case it pops out. I just want to see if that little... I'm sure it was a little African wildcat. I just want to see if it pops out again. Because we've not been there. Going on here. Oh. Sorry. Hello. How are you doing? Very well, thank you. Did you have a good game drive? Oh, good. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with those rhinos. That was really nice to see.
We want to come have a look at your spot over there at Graham's house. Where you have your office.
Sure. No, you're welcome to come through.
What is a good time to come around?
Probably sometime tomorrow or the following day, but in between drives, sometime tomorrow or the following day.
Okay.
Yeah. So, alrighty, no problem. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye. That was the owner of Juma's sister and her family. It's interesting coming over and seeing Final Control, what we do over there. Okay, let's see if our little cat has appeared again. Nope. Not seeing any eyes. Oh well, worth a try. It's always worth a try. Oh. Well, I don't know about you, but I thoroughly enjoyed seeing those rhinos. I really hope you did too, and hopefully gave you a bit more of an insight into rhinos' lives and the way that they think and feel. And we haven't really seen too much of the rhinos lately. We saw the female with the calf, but that was very brief, so it's nice to spend a bit of time with them. But thank you very much for all your questions and all your participation in the questions that I gave you as well. And thanks for being aboard this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed it. My name's Tara, Becky's been on camera, Herman's been back in Final Control, and you've been watching Wild Earth. Hopefully you can see us tomorrow morning. It may be me or Mark, depends on how Mark is tomorrow. But otherwise, do try and join us at 6:30 Central Africa time for our next live safari tomorrow morning. Take care.